All right, y'all, it's the next day, and I am on my way to go pick up these Hemlock pine logs, the saw logs for my dimensional lumber. I figured I'd take you along for the ride. I'm just starting out. He's about 30 minutes away, so I will see you when we get there. It is 1,000 board feet, a little bit over, almost 1,100 board feet of hemlock and pine on the trailer, headed home. I've got to tell you that I love this stuff. This, I don't know, maybe it seems like a simple life or something that most people just don't think would be cool or fun, but to me, just moving logs, cutting down trees, sawing logs, working with lumber is there's just something enjoyable about it that just speaks to me in a pretty big way. This is something that I it's good, it's fun, I really like it. Really hope that I can get the boys into this so that we can have something to do together, collecting and sawing logs, building stuff with it. Like, really be fun. And I'm not saying I want to get into logging or anything like that. I've got enough to do with the mill and the house and potential future woodworking ventures, but going and picking up stuff and bringing it home and turning it into amazing and beautiful projects is something that I really enjoy doing. It is crazy how quickly time flies over these summer months. So shortly after recording that last series of videos, the weather kind of cleared up. We were able to get the power into the ground, run up to the house. Shortly after that, we got into the refueling outage for the nuclear power plant that I work at. We got to pour the concrete, put in the radiant in-floor heat, the spray foam underneath, we got the septic system put in, the well dug, we got all of that land cleared. Man, has it been a whirlwind summer. Also, I'd like you to notice on the bottom part of this picture, my wife's lovely garden that she put in. It's all in hay bales. I'd like to convince her to do a video on this. Now that she's had some experience with it, it has been extremely productive. Very awesome to watch that develop. Anywho, we're gonna get on to milling this first hemlock log that I've got on the Bobcat right now. And I'll kind of walk you through my process for turning this set of logs into dimensional lumber. And if you follow along until the end of the video, I'm gonna do like a cost breakdown of how much I'm paying per stick of lumber versus store costs right now. Kind of a behind the scenes as to why we chose to go this route rather than just buying our dimensional 2x6s and 2x4s. Hope you enjoy watching this video. Part of my log preparation whenever I'm getting ready to put some of these timbers on the mill is to paint the ends with a wax emulsified acrylic paint. And all that means is there's a bunch of wax thoroughly mixed in with the acrylic paint, and that really just helps seal in the ends of these timbers. And the purpose is to prevent any cracking or checking. So if you can imagine these logs, they're very fresh, they're green, they have a lot of moisture content, and the moisture leaves out of these ends faster than out of like the sides or wherever the bark might be. And it'll also leave from the outer parts of the circle than the inner parts faster. So as the outside dries, it's going to shrink, but the inside stays wet for longer, and it doesn't shrink. So the outside will be shrinking around a non-shrinking core, and that is what actually causes the drying checks or the drying cracks. So if you can slow down that drying process significantly, prevent moisture leaving from the ends, you significantly reduce your chances of checking. I'm using a brand called Anchor Seal. I highly recommend it. You can use latex paint or anything else that'll just kind of seal up the ends and help slow the drying process. Once I have the log loaded on the mill, I check and measure and set up my log so that the pith or the center of the log is level across the bunks. This does two things for me. One, it makes it easier for me to isolate the pith of the tree or the center of the tree. The pith is where a lot of cracking comes from. So if I can center or isolate that to one or two boards, then that is one or two boards only that could get wasted. The other thing is it helps to minimize runout. So a tree tapers, and if I can cut a straight line through that taper, then I'm gonna have less chance of boards breaking. Hello friends, welcome back to Hemlock Hills. Today, I'm gonna talk about what's on the mill. And what I've got here is hemlock. So I'm gonna be using hemlock for all the framing on the interior of the timber frame itself. So this won't be structural, although it could be. Structural, it's got plenty of strength in it. It's a softer wood, very heavy though. Rot resistance is pretty low, so this is going to be interior stuff only. And yeah, so what I need right now are dimensional, full 2-inch by 5.5-inch depth by 8 foot long. So these logs came to me 16 foot long, a bit over. And these are just over 8 feet, 8 foot 1 inch, according to this. So this one's a little bit close. The other side is probably 8 foot 3 or 4 inch. So I'll be able to get my full 8 foot timbers out of this. This particular log, on the small end, is 14 inches. 14 inches on the small end, and it has a bit of a crook in it. So we'll see how much we can really get out of it with those dimensions. I anticipate being able to get anywhere from 8 to 10 of my dimensional 2x6s, 2x5.5s. So we're gonna go ahead and dig into this. The plan is cut it from a round log into a square cant, and then we'll trim down to, if I can, 11 1/8 inch by whatever I can get. And the 11 1/8 is so that I can cut it into 2 5.5-inch thick slabs, and then I'll turn those up on end, and we'll just cut down in 2-inch increments until we get to the bottom, and we'll see what we get. So let's go ahead and get to it. I'm gonna go ahead and show you this. I take time after each pass, when I start getting close to my final cuts, to go ahead and take off the bark, and here's why. If I can find them again. Yeah, see, this dude right here was making himself a happy little home. Just eating away, chewing, having a good old time. And that's where they're gonna do it. Right here in the cambium layer of the wood. You see it all over the place. Right, so they're gonna start digging and pooping and eating. There was another one right there. Having themselves a feast, and with their poop comes bacteria and germs and things that's gonna start breaking down the wood. So if you're gonna be storing your wood for a long time, or I guess really not even a long time, if you're gonna be storing your wood at all, and there is any bark left on it, it's worthwhile stripping it off, because that's where the bugs are gonna get in, or where they're gonna hang out, at least a good majority of them. Ants and a few other critters just really don't seem to care, but removing the bark helps a lot. All right, y'all. We fast forwarded again, a little bit of time travel in the world of the YouTube. This is now getting on towards the end of September. This stuff has actually been sitting here for a couple of weeks, but I am done. I've milled up all of the hemlock logs, and I found a pine log to make some 2x8x16s here. So we're not going to talk about like these guys right now. I just want to go over some like cost and numbers for any of you that might be interested in that. So to start off this conversation, I'm going to give you what I paid. So I paid 30 cents per board foot for 2,000 board feet of hemlock logs. All right, 30 cents per board foot. I'm going to assume that my time as a sawmill person, a sawyer, is $50 an hour. That's a pretty average. $50 to $60 an hour is what I've seen people charging if they do per like an hourly rate as a sawyer. Okay. I used, doing all of these 2x6s and the 2x4s behind me here, about 6 gallons in gas. And currently the ethanol free gas is about $4 per gallon. And I went through 2 blades. So the blades are $25 to $28 a piece. But I can get those resharpened at about $10 a piece. So I'm going to assume the $25 just so it's like a maximum number, like that I had to completely replace the blade once it was dull. So all that's being said, I paid $600 for the 2,000 board feet of Hemlock, and I've got over 250 boards, but I'm going to assume that I'll end up with 250 usable boards, 2x6s and 2x4s. Total 250. So that's about $2.40 per board in material. It took me about 30 minutes total processing time from picking the log, cutting it, sealing the ends, getting it on the mill, cutting it into 2x8s, stacking it. About 30 minutes per log. So that was about, if you take my $50 an hour, 30 minutes per log, how many boards I have there per board, that gives me the $1 per board amount for my time, and that comes out to about $2.50 per board. I've got $50 in blades, and I got about $24 in gas. All right, so that's $74 for consumables, we'll say, divided by the 250 boards. That gives me about 30 cents per board. So all said and done, I'm about $5.20 per board if you include my time, or $2.70 per board if you don't include my time. So if you put my time into the calculation, $5.20 per board, I've got $1,300 all tied up into milling 250 2x6x8s and 2x4. So it's 200 2x6x8s and 50 2x4x8s. So I've got $1,300 tied up in that. When I first made the decision to purchase the Hemlock logs and do this myself, it was back towards the end of 2020. Right, so in the early 2021, January 2021, when I went out and picked them up, 2x6x8s were closer to $13 per stick. Currently in September of 2021, we're hopefully transitioning out of this whole pandemic. Lumber prices have been coming back down. They're still kind of high, but a 2x6x8 right now, if I went to Home Depot or Lowe's and I bought them, is about $9 per stick. So 250 boards times $9 a stick is $2,250. So if you subtract what I've paid and invested into these these boards minus from what 2x6x8s from Lowe's would be, I've saved about $900 to $1,000 on material. That's a pretty good feeling. There's a convenience factor with this because it takes time. I can't use these right away. They're gonna have to sit like this and for probably a year before they're like dry enough to really use. And only because I'm spray foaming. I'm putting in spray foam, and anything that the spray foam has to come into contact with has to be below a certain moisture content. So these got to get rid of all the free moisture in them. Really, I could probably use them in about 6 months after being stacked and stickered like this. We'll be getting back to them in about 8 months, maybe 10 once the frame is up and everything is ready to go. So I can't just like cut these and use them for my project. So there is time and convenience. If I was in more of a rush or not so focused on saving money, trying to do this debt free and paying cash, then it might not be the best option. Also keep in mind, I am not counting the cost of the mill in this at all, right? So I paid $17,000 for the mill. In the end, if you consider that I'm going to be having 10 by 12 by 15 foot beams all over the place in this house. If you can imagine what those would cost for me to get those sourced, milled up, what I would pay in those. And these all are coming from the property. They're all coming from the property. So the material is free. And if you negate my time, in the end, I think it's going to be like the mill is going to pay for itself just in this house. So I'm not going to include the mill in any of these calculations for cost on this. I've got another video coming up with, oh God, it's so hard to figure out where I'm pointing. There we go. These long boards here, those are 2x8 by 16s. Those are going to be part of the roof decking. I stumbled across a really nice eastern white pine log and it was free. The county was cutting it down. Anyway, I'm going to do a video on that because that was an interesting log to mill up. It was massive, absolutely massive. I had to get really creative. It was so much fun. So I'm going to end this here. I hope y'all are having a great summer. Things are winding down. The leaves are changing color. They're starting to fall all over the place. Autumn is upon us here towards the middle of September. I've got to get busy. This stack of timbers needs to grow fast, so I'm ready to go for joinery after we recoup from all the money we sent this year, so we can get back at it next year. I hope you all have a good day, good night, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye-bye.